Hi guys, and welcome back. Today we have an opportunity to dyno a stock M2 competition. So Max from MMR Performance has kindly lent us his car for the development on the Eventuri intake. So we thought we'd take this opportunity to dyno the car stock and show you some comparison between the original M2. That's our M2 over there. If you haven't checked that car out already, we'll put a link to the playlist so you can look at what we've been doing with that project. So onto the M2 competition. As you guys probably know, it has the S55 engine in it now rather than the N55 that M2 has. So it'll be really interesting to see what power it's making. So we'll get it on the dyno, run it a couple of times, and then show you some comparisons with other S55 engine cars like the M3 and M4, and also what the N55 does in the original M2. So we dynoed the car 3 times to get a consistent reading from it, and the best we managed to get is 409 horsepower and around 450 foot-pounds of torque. So BMW do quote this car at 404 horsepower, so it's made roughly that. One of these cars has already been dynoed at Surrey Rolling Road, who have the same dyno as us, and they got the same horsepower, so within sort of 1 or 2 horsepower of what they achieved. So while we're doing this, we thought it'd be interesting to dyno some other cars and show you the comparison on the dyno graph. So we'll start with a stock N55 M2, which is the original M2 first. So that is stock M2 versus the M2 competition. You can see it's making a little bit more power low down, but that's only because on the later S55s BMW have mapped the engines to bring the power in a lot more gently, because they were really violent before, and a lot of people were having problem with the traction, so that's literally there to manage the traction. But once it gets past that point, it's making a good 50 to 70 foot-pound more torque throughout the whole rev range, and from around 750 RPM it's making a good 50 horsepower more, and peak power is up around 40 horsepower, and it maintains it quite well. What's interesting about the M2 competition is that it's making the peak power for a long time, so it's basically making over 400 horsepower for from 5,000 RPM all the way to the red line, which will make the car feel pretty quick on the road. So the next thing we want to show you is the M2 competition in comparison to a tuned M2 with the N55 engine. So I will just pull that graph up now. which is there, and I'll remove this one so we can see what we're doing. Okay, so that is an original M2 N55 engine with a CSF intercooler and our stage 1 remap, so that's completely stock exhaust. Again, you can see it's making a lot more torque low down, but that's purely mapping strategy from BMW. This is capable of making more if you want it to, but in the real world you don't, because you just can't put the power down. You can see it's making a little bit more than the stock competition, from around 4,000 upwards all the way to the red line. So on the road that would be a little bit quicker. So if you're looking at just power, the competition obviously is going to be a little bit slower than a tuned M2 with the N55, but obviously the M2 competition does have the potential to make around 550 once you do like stage 2 tuning on it. So the other thing we want to compare it against now is a stock M3 M4 competition with the S55 engine. So let's take this graph off. So that's a stock M4 competition, and that's typically what they make on this dyno, plus or minus 5 horsepower. So that's made 453 horsepower. And what's interesting is you can see the mapping strategy from BMW. It's the same low down to help with the traction. That dip is just the car settling on the dyno, but you can see it's pretty much the same up until 5,000 RPM. And you can see now where BMW have restricted the M2 competition's power and kept it more or less flat from 5,000 RPM all the way to the red line, where the S55 engine in the M3 and M4 is allowed to make full power. So it's making a good sort of 30 to 40 horsepower more in that region there. So it shows you how much BMW have actually restricted the S55 in this car. Obviously this car also has a PPF. We haven't dynoed a M3, well, M3 doesn't have PPF. We haven't dynoed an M4 with a PPF yet to see if that's actually made any difference, or whether BMW have compensated in the mapping to allow the car to make the same amount of power. Thank you for watching, guys. If you want to watch more of our videos, you can watch them over here. If you want to watch what YouTube suggests that you might like from our videos, you can watch them over here. As always, if you haven't already, please like our video and subscribe to our channel. If you've got any questions for us, please drop them in the comments below and we will do our best to answer them for you.